Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you sound great.
Cool.
What is up, everybody? It is Wednesday night. Welcome to the latest episode of Doc Talk, episode 22. Let's go. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, Doc Talk. It's good to be back. It's good to see you guys.
Good to see you too.
Thanks for having us on, Chad.
So, hey, you guys are having me on. I'm just here. I'm just the guy with the computer setting this stuff up. That's all I am. So yeah, a couple repeat offenders tonight back on Doc Talk, and one just joining us, Mr. Jim Ware.
Hey man, I'm sorry I'm late.
You're not late. We just started. All the only thing you missed was that boring Jameson Redding intro. You've seen that.
I got
before.
you.
Yeah.
Okay.
You've seen that one once. It's like a Calvin Klein commercial.
Right.
Yeah, that's what we call it. The Calvin Klein ad, just so you guys at home know. Okay, so Doc Talk. Everybody knows the rules. Everybody's the host. Everybody's in charge. What we do is we ask you guys at home that are listening to the show, throw up some questions, throw up some comments in the message boards, and we will try to answer those as we go. If you guys hear something that you want to hear, then yeah, let's talk about it. So how's everybody's season going? We'll just we're in summer now. We'll start with Dale and then work our way around.
Wow, how's my season going? Well, first year tournament fishing. Finally jumped into that, and I accomplished my first goal on the first tournament. Got one scoreable fish. Awesome, perfect. Second tournament came in fourth.
Good deal.
And it's kind of gone downhill from there because, as you can see, Mr. Timothy Morris, Modog, who lives about a quarter mile from me. My third tournament, thankfully, there was a trash fish pot because I caught 4 catfish, 3 crappie, and a sand bass. And yes, I did win the trash fish pot on that one. And then we just had another tournament this past weekend, and all I could catch was catfish. So I'm still catching fish, just not bass.
Trash master. You've been called the trash master now. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, that would definitely be where I'm at right now. So anybody that gets out there, if your tournament is running a trash fish side pot, please throw in the $5 for the poor people like me that can't catch bass but can catch everything else.
Hey man, I would like to tell you that it doesn't happen to us, but it happens to us all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Other than that, having a great time learning, getting out, meeting new people. Like Tim there, didn't realize he's literally a quarter mile down the road from me, and we met online and tournament fishing. So get out there, at least meet the people. It's a great time.
Right.
How about you?
You know,
Josh?
I was going to say for Dell, this being like your first season tournament fishing, right? I think, it's a really cool opportunity if you're able to document that and capture it and share that out. That perspective of that new tournament angler is something that there's tons of content out there, but that specific content really isn't there. And I think it would encourage more folks who are on the kind of on the fence deciding whether or not they're going to fish tournaments. They'll see other people doing it and documenting it and showing the trials and stuff that they're going through and the successes. And I think that could be something very encouraging for them.
So my lovely wife did get me a GoPro for, I think, Valentine's Day this year. And so I do have a couple of videos out on YouTube, but then there's also the learning process of batteries die. How do you keep the batteries up? How do you keep enough memory in the SD card, the editing, all that stuff? I've had to learn that as well. So unfortunately, the last two where I've been the trash master, my GoPro has not worked as well as I wanted it to, and I missed a lot of content or documentation. So I'm a little behind on that.
Right.
But absolutely, the very first one, I definitely put together a nice 5-minute, 6-minute video of that first day of how amazing that was, of just getting one fish. That was my goal, one fish. And I felt like I won the tournament just with one fish.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, batteries can be your friend unless you've got like I've got the Yak Power charging port put on my NAR, and I can actually run power to my front and back GoPros if I need to. But I also carry a big old box of batteries around for them 2 cameras sitting up there, and then I'll keep 2 extra cameras, and then the camera in front of me and a camera behind me. So yeah, a lot of battery changing.
I'm just running one, and I've only got one battery right now. And again, getting out and meeting people, there were 3 or 4 guys running GoPros this past weekend, and everybody had a different way of doing it. And you're like, I like how he does that. I like the way he does that one. So maybe I mix a couple of options. But getting out and meeting people has been the best part.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's like farmers only, but it's like for fishermen. That's what tournaments are. So Josh, you're getting ready to head back out, man. Time is of the essence.
I'll tell you what, my season started really well. I had 2 one-day tournaments back to back. Well, a bunch of tournaments back to back, all in the same weekend, between KBF coming to town and our local series kicking off their first, season of doing guaranteed $1,000 payouts for first and all that. And I went out the first day and I didn't do super great. Second day, I went to kind of something that's more in my wheelhouse, and I got a first place in our local trail, and then a second, which downgraded to a third. A lot of complicated whatever behind that, but I did really well. And then I had this neck surgery, so had to miss pretty much all the tournaments in June, which is a huge bummer. Cayuga coming up for BOS was something I really wanted to hit. But I'll be getting back to it July 15th with the Mid-Atlantic Kayak Bass Fishing Series out here. I'm keeping it pretty much regional, local for the most part, just because between the neck surgery and new job and everything else, a lot of stuff going on locally at home.
There ain't nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah,
Mr. Jim Ware, man, like the man well traveled. What's been going on? What's been new with you?
So I don't know if the last time I was on, if I had made it to Florida on a trip and come back, or I was headed
to go. You was getting ready to go.
So I made a week-long trip down to Florida, fished 6 different lakes, got to hook up with Miss Jean, and fished a lake down there, and that ended up being the best one out of all the lakes. So I had a great time doing that. Tournament-wise, I've been in a slump for a while, and just this past weekend was a KBF trail on Lake Chickamauga, and I ended up placing on day 2. They have each day's this standalone tournament. So day 1 I was 11th, and but I found something I didn't know about, and day 2 I went straight there, and it was a school fishing about 18 to 30 feet. It was on a submerged point, and it was a big school of fish, not even giants, but I caught so many. I had so much fun catching fish in that tournament. Day 2, though, after I got my limit and realized that about 17 inches was the biggest fish I'm going to catch out of that school, I made a move and to a ledge that was fairly close to where I was at, and I pulled a 21.5 off of it, and that moved me up to. Actually, I come in 5th place. The highlight of the whole tournament, that was big fish of day 2, so I got a little check for that. but I was coming back to the ramp and realized, I had 10 minutes left, and there was a ledge that I had to come fairly close to. I was not far from it when I realized that I only had 10 minutes left. I ran over there, and when I passed this one section of it, my side imaging, it looked like fish. So I just hit spot lock. I'm in a blue sky, and and I grabbed my jig rod, stood up and cast it. And the first cast I caught one. It was 17 inches, which called me up 1.25 inches and moved me 3 spots up. So I came in 5th. No check, good points, but and when that fish was uploaded, it was 2 o'clock was lines out, and I uploaded at 1:57. So awesome, that was pretty exhilarating, like buzzer beater type deal.
And that just goes to show it ain't over till it's over.
It ain't over till it's over. In fishing, anything can happen on any cast.
That's 100% true. That is 100% true. A lot of times on Dock Talk, we sit around, we talk about the boats, we talk about the different things that the boats can acquire and obtain, and our rigging and all that. So I want to hit you guys a little bit different. Let's talk about some rods and reels. Like, what are you guys throwing? I talked to Joey last night on our episode of the Orion podcast, and we was talking about, flipping setup, or plastics and jigs. What do you guys use for fishing, either soft plastics or a jig? Like, what's your rod and reel combo line type?
I'm just getting back into the fishing game after about 20 years. So all my stuff is from the early 90s, and I haven't really gotten new stuff. I do have some new stuff, thanks to my wonderful wife, who is slowly helping me get back into the more current technologies instead of all the graphite stuff from the 90s. So the newest stuff I have is casting fishing rods. It's the first thing in my hand. It's the chattergrass rod. Everybody knows the first thing I'm throwing is a spinnerbait or a chatterbait, most likely a spinnerbait. So casting chattergrass rod. Other than that, it's stuff that I've kept for 30 years that is still in good shape.
That's awesome. Absolutely awesome, man. I mean, to have stuff and still have it in good working condition just means you took care of it. How about you, Jim? What are you out there slinging with these days?
Well, I love dragging a football jig or a wobble head, swing head jig. I love those heavy. I love fishing offshore, and if I can find them deep, that's what I'm going to do. I've got there's 2 rods that I'm going to be throwing most of the time. It's a 7.6 Loomis NRX heavy action, and I have a Shimano Bantam on it. And the other one's a 7-foot NRX heavy action, and I have a Bantam on it too. Generally 17. At Chickamauga this past week, I had 20 fluoro tied on it or spooled on it. But it's just, they're so sensitive, and when you're dragging across the bottom, and like that point I was fishing, I'd bomb cast, try to get as far out. I was pulling that jig uphill, and so I could tell it was smooth. I was on mud or whatever.
Right.
And there was this one section, and it was shale or pea gravel or what, but there it is. And I was just crawling it over those, whatever they were. And I knew I was going to get hit. When I hit that rock, a hard bottom, I was ready to go, and that's when I would get hit. But yeah, that, and I've got a IMX Pro crankbait rod. I have Curados on all my other rods, but I like throwing a crankbait too. Chatterbait. I have a 6.6 medium heavy NRX with a Aldebaran reel on it, But I'll throw a chatterbait on it, even though it's medium heavy. It's got a really nice tip, and I can, the trick with a chatterbait, you let them eat it, and so it's got enough give that I can let that fish eat it, and then it's got plenty of backbone to get it in.
Okay. Question from the crowd for you, Jim. Tell us bank beaters to help us learn how to move out and catch more fish in deep water.
Okay. Electronics. Get as proficient as you can at reading electronics. You get the best electronics you can afford. You don't have to have the most expensive, but side imaging is a huge tool for me. I have live scope, but side imaging is what I really pay attention to. That and map study. You download Navionics app, or I have a Garmin unit, so I have the Active Captain app, and it's got mapping on it. And that's the tools I use to go offshore. Maps, and once I get on the water, like I said, side imaging and just looking for fish. There's some apps. I mean, there's some pages on YouTube. Fish the Moment's one of the best that I've seen, where the guy can explain to you about reading electronics, and he doesn't blow your mind. He explains it really clearly and well. I've learned a lot watching that kid on electronics.
Very good, very good. I like it.
Real quick, I got a question for Jim. What specific structure are you looking for offshore, whether it's in map study or on your electronics?
Well, while I'm looking on maps, I hard bottom, road beds, especially in man-made reservoirs, old road beds, building foundations. Sometimes they'll have rock listed as a rock pile, as a fish marker or something like that. Creek channel bends, high sides of a creek channel. A lot of times that's a hard bottom. Anywhere along a major, say, Tennessee River system, so you'll have 50 foot deep in the main channel, and then it'll come all the way up to 6 foot or whatever, and there'll be these remnant sandbars on the side of the river. Shell beds are likely to be on the high spots of those old sandbars along the river there.
And like if you was to Google Earth, Pickwick is actually a really good lake to look at to kind of understand what he's talking about there, because Pickwick has, as you go south towards the Wilson Dam, it gets pretty shallow in areas back there, and you can see a lot of those sandbars that like he's talking about.
Yep. There's actually some old Indian mounds in Pickwick there that they catch fish off of that are submerged. But but once I get on the water, I'm looking for on my side imaging or down imaging, the return showing me that it's a hard bottom, and what that's going to be is a really bright glowing, depending on what color scheme you're running on your electronics. I run it's like an amber color. So if it's mud, it looks almost burgundy, and then if it's a hard bottom, it'll be bright yellow. And I know that's a hard bottom. I go scan it, and a lot of times there's a school of fish on it. They just love those shell beds and such this time of the year.
Yeah, and that's it. Almost, if you're looking at your graph, Dale, to kind of explain, it almost looks shiny.
Yeah,
on your side imaging. That'd be the best way to put it. Like when you're cruising down through there, it will look shiny, and you'll see rice a lot of times.
The fish. The fish look like grains of rice.
Nice. Yep.
All right. Hey, Josh. So you like what's your rod and reel setups? What are you using for shallow flipping, pitching, and then throwing jigs and plastics?
Well, I'll tell you what, I've got a couple rods kind of like Jim, I've got one in particular that's my absolute favorite, whether I'm throwing a chatterbait or even I like throwing 3/8 ounce and ½ ounce flipping jigs, but I like throwing them on deep wood, like 18 to 25 foot deep. So a little bit different than Jim's Pro. We don't really have ledges out here unless it's in the rivers, and that's totally different, you know? So a lot of the reservoirs out here have standing timber that's 20 to 50 foot tall trees, and so I'll pick those apart. But I got a medium heavy 7.3 iRod Crusher is my absolute favorite chatterbait rod and jig rod in general. And Jim knows about them. Jim knows all about them. Rod. Yeah, that's I've got like 5 of them in my lineup. I mean, I keep a couple different colors tied on, and if I'm going out and just fun fishing, that's how I rock. But if I'm fishing heavier cover and the kind of the thick sloppy stuff, then I'll go over to like the heavy Crusher. But that 7.3 medium heavy is just money. I usually have a Super Duty wide, a loose Super Duty wide reel. I like the line capacity on them. I can kind of do a little more with them, and have a lot of versatility as far as lure weight choices that I'm throwing. So I've got a lot of those in my lineup, and almost all of my rods and reels that are on my bait casting setups are all a 12-pound P-line tactical fluorocarbon. I don't do a lot of the. I know a lot of the guys like to do, braid to fluoro leaders and all that, and I hate fiddling with that out on the water. I really do. So I'm running pure fluoro all the time. If I switch up from that, it'll be for like big swim baits and stuff, and then I'll have heavier line and usually mono, like a 17-pound mono for like a big swim bait or something like that. But
that's good. I'm the same way on my bait casters, man. I run full fluorocarbon. Unless my frog rod, and then it's straight braid. But
right.
Everything else is straight up fluoro, with the exception of spinning reels and, like I said, the frog rod. So yeah, with you.
I really like throwing. So a lot of the lakes, reservoirs up here, they've got these small black water snakes in them, and so I'll throw like a 10 or 12-inch ribbon tail and like a black neon or something like that, some like black with red flag, something like that. Texas rigged, and I'll throw that on the bait casters, and it's nasty, man. Like a 1/4 ounce pegged tungsten bullet weight. I mean, you can't beat it. They go crazy for it when they're not hitting the jig. So
now, we're talking about lures and everything, let's kind of get into this, and this is your own fault, Josh. So I'm going to let you start with it. How do you guys decide, number one, lure weight, and how do you decide color? What are some of your keys that key you in on, what type of, sinker size that you're going to use? And there again, out of the plethora of colors that are on the market, how do you decide which color you're going to go with?
I'm pretty basic with colors. I'll be honest with you. I like sticking with blacks, blues, and whites. Maybe throw some chartreuses on there. I know a lot of people will change their colors up based on like, how the sky's looking and all that. And I don't really do that so much with my reaction baits. I do, but not so much, with like just my regular jigs and plastics. As far as weight goes, I think rate of fall can play a big part in it. A lot of times, some fish, especially when they're sluggish, they like that little bit slower fall, because it really gives it more time in their face as it's going down, unless you're fishing the bottom, or working the bottom real heavily. But the rate of fall, I think, has a big impact on how the fish react to the baits personally. And then also another factor is current. Obviously, if I'm fishing current and I got to get the fish are sitting low, I got to get past that current and get through that current, or I'll fish a lighter jig, for instance, and kind of work with the current, and let the bait kind of look a little more naturally, kind of pushing down river, for instance. So they're seeing something that looks like a natural forage, That's me personally.
How about you, Jim?
If you were to look at my soft plastics box, or bag, 80% of them are going to be black and blue flake, and that I throw that all the time. I mean, clear water, muddy water, it just gives them a profile, and I catch fish with them. Even when, people say morning dawn, they're hitting this. I hadn't had a problem throwing a black and blue flake. I do have, like in really clear water, I'll put on something that like a Alabama crawl color or something like that looks really natural. But in my mind, I know if I put the black and blue flake on, they would probably hit that too. They might not, but I'm that confident with that color. Or just what's the Berkeley Mac scent? Just the black.
Straight black, yeah.
Black mag hit worm, or the kingtail. I catch a lot of fish on that. A lot. So I'm like you, Josh. Black, the basic colors, but I just tend to throw just a dark color because it gives them a profile. Is how I look at it.
Find it
makes it less easy for them to pick it apart.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. No green pumpkin has made it in here yet. How about you, Dale?
There you go. I'll be your green pumpkin guy, because here in Oklahoma, if you don't have green pumpkin, everybody's asking you why you're not throwing green pumpkin.
Right.
However, I do have a bag of the black with the blue flake in it. As far as weight, Joey said it last night on the Orion podcast. Everything I throw is 3/8. Everything. There's nothing that I don't have that's not 3/8. Just like he said last night, I know exactly how that's going to come off the reel. I know exactly how I can cast that 3/8 ounce weight. So everything I have is 3/8.
That's awesome. That is awesome. That's a good shout out to Joey as well for some of his comments last night. Now, another thing I think that really, since we're on this topic, and I think it plays right back in on your reel speeds, like when you look at your actual, speed, I mean, 7.2 to 1 used to be fast. Now that's kind of becoming slower reels. What are you guys fishing with as far as your speed? Are you guys running some of these new hyper fast reels that are out there, or are you guys just sticking with the 7.2s? Whoever wants to field it. And how do you choose?
I've got every reel I have is a 7.2 to 1, except one. I've got and the only reason it's a 8 to 1. The only reason I got it is because it was the only one that they had at the time. It's a Corrado it's a 150, and so I've got it on a flipping stick. And so I can flip and get it up quick, that to go to the next spot that time. But yeah, 7 crankbaits, I'll throw the 7. I can reel slower if I need to. This is the way I look at it. I'm used to using that speed. So every reel I pick up, except that one flipping stick, is going to retrieve as about the same as the next one. If I'm junk fishing or trying to figure something out, I know what speed that bait's moving at as I'm reeling. I don't have to look at the bottom of the reel and see what's going on.
Yeah, I'm the same as Jim. I like all my reels fast. It's mostly 7.11s, 8.11s. I have one reel. It's a crankbait reel that's 6.41, I think, and I never use it. I don't like, especially if you got where I fish a lot of. If I'm fishing the reservoirs, they're, like I said, I'm fishing in like 20 feet or something like that, and those fish, when they get it, they either shoot straight up to the surface and launch, or they come running straight at your boat and past it. And if you're fishing anything with a slower gear ratio, you cannot keep up with them fish, and you lose a lot of them, in my opinion. So I like, kind of like what Jim was saying, I really like to be able to have control of that cadence and that speed as much as possible. I can always slow down, but if that reel can't go any faster, well, damn, what am I doing?
Right.
So I kind of leave them out of the arsenal for the most part.
I still have my old Shimano Speedmaster when the Speedmaster meant 6-1.
Mm-hmm.
So I've still got that sitting in the garage, and you guys are making me think I might want to trade that out on my Bushmaster telescopic flipping rod, because right now that's got a 5-1 sitting on it.
Mm-hmm.
So I may go grab that Speedmaster and throw that on there. But my new stuff, all the Shimano Corrados, about 6-7-1 is what I'm using. Plus, like I said, primarily I throw a spinnerbait first. So I'm just keeping it up and down, just out of sight. And I don't need 8-1 speed to do that.
Right.
Yeah, I'm kind of a mixed bag. I've got a little bit of everything. Actually, the weirdest thing that will probably blow most your guys' minds is I actually throw a chatterbait on a 5.4.
Oof.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
And, it's just one of those things that, I started when I started crankbait fishing. Was Kevin Van Dam was in his winning streak back then, and he was always using the 5.4. So it's like, see what this is about. So I picked up one, and it's something that has stuck with me ever since. Now I do also have a chatterbait rod with 7. So, kayak fishing, I think big boat and kayak fishing. With kayak fishing, the boat tends to move a little bit when you're offshore and different things. If you catch fish, and unless you're spot locked like Jim, chances are your boat's going to move. So you do need a little bit quicker reel, I think, in kayak fishing to catch up better to what you got going on. Make sure you get a good hook set. I do think that's important. Yeah, I still got a couple slow reels in the lineup, believe it or not. I like them.
I will say, over the last year, the one thing I've learned is I always grew up with medium action rods, because on the bank or in a bass boat or whatever, that boat doesn't move as much. But like you just stated, our kayaks move quite a bit on that hook set. So I've definitely learned that medium heavy, sometimes even heavy, to make sure you get that good hook set.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. What would you guys describe if you was trying to set a new kayak angler up with something, one rod, one reel, one line type? What are you going to set them up with to get the new kayak angler started fishing properly?
I mean, it depends on what they're using or what they're fishing for and how
they're completely novice.
Well, I mean, then I'd hand them my favorite setup and see if it worked for them, or I'd let them go through my arsenal of rods and reels and see what's most comfortable for them. Because a lot of times when somebody does well with, a particular rod or reel or line size or bait, that becomes a confidence to them. And one, it'll keep them engaged in the sport, but two, they'll get better because they have that confidence. I think they'll pick it up faster in that regard.
That's good advice. Good advice.
How about you, Jim? I would, everyone, and I mentioned earlier I have a rod that's 6'6", but in a kayak, I personally, when I was in fishing exclusively from a regular kayak, 7 foot long was as short as I would go, and that was because of clearing the nose of the boat, fighting a fish. A shorter rod than that, I would have lost a lot of fish. So I would suggest at least a 7 foot rod, probably a medium heavy, and a Corrado would be, if I was going to give a brand of a reel, I would, something like Corrado or a spinning rod, I would, same thing, 7 foot, probably a medium heavy spinning rod and a 3,000 size reel.
Nice.
To throw everything, just to do that. And I had it was a 7 foot medium heavy, I think, St. Croix Avid with a Stratic 3000. And I trout fished. I took it to Florida. I caught redfish, trout on it, bass back here. I used that rod for everything. And it was a perfect setup for just a general tool,
Yeah,
that was a great rod.
Medium heavy is a very diverse setup, I think, for a lot of folks, and you can do a lot of things with it. How about you, Dale? What would be if you was going to get somebody started?
So a year ago, I was throwing 6-foot mediums out of a kayak. And that's because that's what I grew up with. That's what I knew. And I could still, even after a long break, I could cast pretty accurate. But then as I've learned over the last year, yeah, that 7 foot, and like Jim said, to be able to get around the front gets a lot easier. And then the medium heavy, like I mentioned earlier, the hook sets, learning that a 6 foot medium cannot get that hook through those tough lips. So yeah, probably at least 6.5, if not a 7 foot. And I grew up with Shimano, so I'm with Jim on the Corrados. I've got a 30-year-old Corrado that I've still got, I used it this past weekend with crankbaits.
Right on. Okay.
I remember when a 6 foot rod was a long rod.
Exactly. Exactly. Really?
Yeah, that was a long rod.
Now, question from the audience right into this. From Wyatt, do you guys find yourself leaning towards longer rods more for leverage in a kayak? He knows he does.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I could see it. Yeah, it gives me more leverage for sure. Yep.
I will say the one thing I had to learn with that 7 foot rod is it's harder to just boat flip the fish. The 6 foot rod, they were much closer to the side of the kayak, and that 7 foot, they're still out there a ways. So that's where a good net comes in.
Right.
What is a good net length? What is a good net length for kayak fishing? I know some people like some of the shorter nets that sit down a lot, and then a lot of people like these Yak Attack leverage, nets. I mean, I think webbing, as far as webbing on a net goes, definitely the rubber over the mesh. But what's a good net length for a kayak fisherman?
I like a 3 foot, like 2.5, 3 feet handle, mesh.
We lost him.
Yeah.
Did I lose y'all?
Yep, you're back.
You're back.
All right, cool. The biggest thing for me, aside from that rubber mesh netting, is a deep basket on it, honestly. When I first started kayak fishing, I had a little short handle, kind of shallow basket net, because I came over from trout fishing, and not really thinking about it. We didn't really, when I fished in bass boats, we didn't really use nets too much. So I quickly learned that the fish, can jump out of the nets a lot easier with that shallow basket, and they didn't have quite the capacity to land those bigger fish.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't use a net.
Boat flipping. I like it.
Yeah. Even when I was in a kayak, I'd get lures tangled up in it, and it would drive me nuts. And I would put it behind me, and while I'm fighting a fish, I've got to fight to get it. And then fun fishing, I never took a net, and I never had a problem losing a fish. So I just kept the gamble going, and I don't take a net with me. One day it'll probably bite me in the butt, but until then, I'll just leave it at home. But I do have it's a Bubba net that I got, and it's a 3 foot. It's got a big. It's perfect. It's heavy, but it's perfect size, perfect width and depth of the net. But I'd leave it at home.
I feel you. There's a lot of times, man, I leave my net in the truck. I also leave my catchboard in the truck an awful lot. I've had to learn this year fishing the USA Bass and JK Trail to take my freaking catchboard with me. And I'm not going to lie with you. I've left it a couple times and had to go back to the truck and get the stupid thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just get used to not having it, and it's like one extra thing that you don't have to lug around, and it's just kind of nice to leave that stuff at the truck sometimes.
Right.
How about you,
I finally bought a net. I'd had my Kusa maybe a month and a half, so it was about February time frame. Slow rolling a spinnerbait out in the middle, and hooked into a 5-pounder, and went on a little sleigh ride. That was fun. but then realized I didn't have a net
to
get this biggest fish that I've ever caught, especially on a kayak, into the boat. So I literally just had to enjoy the ride until that fish was done and ready to come up right next to me. So I got a 3-foot net from Bass Pro Shops right after that, and it's nothing special, but it's there for the next 5-pounder that wants to, or 6-pound catfish that they want my spinner baits mostly.
Yeah, I can see that. So I guess we'll talk about line here a little bit. Fluorocarbon is all the rage. Braid's all the rage. What are you guys using in? Is monofilament lines? I mean, is it still relevant today? And what we do for fishing?
That's all I throw. I do have 2 reels with braid on it, and I really don't like it. So I'm still throwing strand monofilament, just like my grandfather did. And it's easy for me to tie. I know it's going to have stretch, which is kind of a downside in our kayak, but I know how to cast with it. I know how to tie with it. I know how it's going to react with the lures. I just stuck with monofilament.
Yeah, there you go.
I've got a friend, that's all he uses, monofilament, but I'm straight fluorocarbon unless I'm going to Florida or going to be fishing grass, a frog or something, or around a lot of grass at Gunnersville. I have straight braid on them, but I don't use a lot. I don't use a lot of topwater lures. If I do, it's a whopper plopper or buzz bait, so I can throw. I don't have to worry about my line if my line sinks or not because it's moving.
Right. Yeah, I'd say the same. I've got the one rod that's got the braid on it, and that's really it. Like I said, as far as topwater goes, and that's all it's for. How about you, Josh?
Mostly fluoro, but I do like heavier mono for, like I said, the big swim baits. I don't throw them as often as I'd like to, but I don't have as much confidence in them as I do some of the other baits that I have in my arsenal. So, but I do, I have my swim bait rod, and it's got I think 17-pound, some type of P-line mono on it, but I don't remember which one I got on there right now. But aside from that, it's mostly fluoro.
There you go. That's good to know. Spinning rods is something that we really haven't talked about. Are you guys spinning rod guys? Are you throwing braid with a leader?
I love them. I'll throw. I mean, all of my spinning rods have anywhere between 8 and 10-pound fluoro on them. Just like with the casting rods, I like a little bit longer rods, and that 7 to 7.5 foot range is kind of like the sweet spot for me, I think. But yeah, I mean, we've got tons of smallies up here, and we do a lot of finesse fishing. And so I always have at least 2 spinning rods on my kayak at all times.
Yeah, I've got a drop shot rod, and it's a 610, I believe, is what the length on that is. And I've got straight braid. I have braid, and I tie it to a whatever size leader I need for drop shot. The other spinning rod I have is a 7.4. I think it's IMX. It's their swim bait, but it's a spinning rod, and I have 8-pound fluoro on it. And I like throwing, 1/4-ounce ball head jigs with a Kitech with it, or the Okashira screw head.
Yeah.
For spots and smallmouth or large, whatever wants to hit it. But when I go to those Highland reservoirs, I definitely take that rod with me and throw those small swim baits.
I almost always have at least 1 spinning rod, no more than 2. But typically, the only time I'm going to pick that up is when even the catfish won't hit my spinner bait, or I'm out there trying to find sand bass. So my spinning rods are mainly to catch sand bass. That's what I mainly use those for. And there's 6 foot and running the same 8 to 10-pound test monofilament.
Right. That's good. That is very good. So spinning reels, I mean, I'm sure everybody's using probably the fastest spinning reel they can get these days. I know mine are up in the 6s now. I don't have anything faster than that, but hopefully soon. Assume you're all using a 6 instead of a 5 these days on the speed.
Whatever the Luth custom custom pro spinning reel, whatever that is, I don't even know. I don't pay attention to it because the majority of the stuff I'm fishing, with my spinning rod is either small plastics or paddle tails, and so I don't really need any speed per se, So I don't know. I don't look at that for my spinning reels at least.
I couldn't tell you what ratio my spinning reels are.
It's in the boat, right?
Yeah, it's in the boat.
Yeah, my newest mono spinning reel, I don't even know what speed it is.
Mm-hmm. All right, we got a quick question from the audience. I have Kevin. He's got a Coosa FD. Should he spend the money and upgrade his seat and the drive, or should I sell it and invest in a NAR FD? That's actually
I think that depends on the kind of water you're fishing. Personally, I mean, if you're fishing, I'm a huge fan of the NAR. I love the Coosa FD too. I had them a Coosa FD, a while back. God, that's a tough one. It depends. If you're fishing a lot of offshore and even big water, big lakes with tons of miles of shoreline and stuff, I would just go ahead and do the NAR personally. But I mean, the Coosa FD accelerates in those kind of areas as well. I think it's just a very different boat, different layout. I like the layout on the NAR a bit better. But you also, if he loves his Coosa FD, that might be the route too, right? You find that kind of sweet spot, that comfort in that particular type of and model of boat. Yep. Either way, I'd recommend having the Mark IV for sure. I mean, that drive is light years ahead of its predecessors.
Yeah.
So, I would say demo the heck out of a NAR, and if you decide you like it, then go ahead and switch. But if not, just upgrade. Go ahead and do that upgrade like you're talking about.
Yeah, both.
I'm currently in a Coosa HD, and I plan on stepping up to the foot drive at some point. Right now, I've got that same debate of, do I stay in the Coosa FD line or do I jump all the way to the NAR? I can't give him an answer because I've got the same debate myself, because I love the Coosa, the length, the weight, and all that great stuff. But like Josh said, that NAR is going to be so much better in the open water.
I think, for me, I like both boats. Both boats are completely different animals in how their rigging capabilities are extremely different. You've got the internal rod storage on the NAR and some different things like that. I do think, like Josh, it comes down a lot to what kind of water you're going to be fishing. Your more medium-sized lakes and different things like that, I think the Coosa FD is going to serve you really, really well. If you're going out to the super big, huge lakes and the different things like that, the NAR it's got a different hull design, and it's made to really ride over the bigger waves, and it's a very high performance boat when it comes to big open water. That's what it was built for, and that's where it excels. But the Coosa FD, I mean, it can take on some big water. We've done it. We tested it in big water when we originally developed the boat. Is the drive and the seat worth it? I think is really the biggest question if you want to upgrade your boat. And 1,000%, if you want to upgrade your boat, you will see a night and day difference when you put in the drive. There's a video that we just actually put out where we took a drive and put it in my buddy's boat. And I had the NAR, and he was having a lot of trouble keeping up. He couldn't get near the speed that I could get out of the NAR. But now, after switching the drives, it's bumped him up. He's getting 4 miles an hour, loaded down, and it's really changed the feel of his boat quite a bit. As far as the seat goes, I personally like the new seat. I know a lot of you guys run the kayak cushion, and those can add a little bit of cushion if you don't like the way the seat feels. But overall, I do like the seat. I like that you can throw the under seat bag on there. The front doesn't crushed down as far as the old Elite seats did. So I think the seat overall is a more rigid. It is taller. So I will tell you that out of the gate. That new seat does set up. It's the tallest seat that we've ever had. Wouldn't you agree, Josh?
Yeah, I'd still like to see it be higher, if I'm being honest.
It's because you're tall.
Yeah.
I won't be able to reach the handles to steer.
Yeah.
I'm short, and I would love another inch or two in that seat.
We'd all love another inch or two for sure.
But
I knew I was setting that up.
And do keep in mind, when you do put that taller seat in, it may change the way your boat feels a little bit. So, it may be worth your time to go to your local Jackson Kayak dealer, demo a Coosa FD with the new seat, with the new drive, see what it feels like. See if those are the upgrades you want to make, and then put it head-to-head with the NAR and see which boat's going to fit your needs the best. I mean, that's really key.
Do we have anybody down in Middle Tennessee? It looks like that's where he's at.
Oh, we got all kinds of Middle Tennessee.
That's what I thought.
Fork.
Well, I was going to say Caney Fork, or even hook up with the local Jackson team member down there that has the models, that you're considering.
Mm-hmm.
And they probably have the Mark IVs. So that'd be another way of checking it out for sure.
Yep. Caney Fork. Yeah, that's the place to go. If you're looking for a dealer, Caney Fork in Middle Tennessee, or gosh, I know there's one in Nashville. I just can't remember the name off the top of my head. But yeah, put them head to head, see what it's all about. And, the best way to try the current boat you got is to go out and test drive the new one and, see if those new parts and work for you. And we'll be glad to help you get them upgraded. We've got a sale on the drive right now. $9.99 or something like that. The River Store. Miss Jean has got me. It's the River Store. So check those out. And Music City. There's all kinds of good Jackson Kayak Shop. Go to the Find a Dealer page at jacksonkayak.com. They can help you. So anyway, well, we've made it 51 minutes, and that means we've pretty well made it the hour. So I'm going to let you guys kind of start rounding out here onto home plate. Thank the people that you want to thank. Tell the good folks at home where they can learn more about you or follow you guys on the social for more tips and tricks. Not all at once now.
I'd like to thank, Dugout Bait Tackle is a Jackson dealer in just north of Atlanta. It covers a huge area down here. Got everything you need for kayaking or fishing, all the top brands. And we've got plenty of Jackson kayaks and a demo pond and a staff that is just passionate about fishing and kayak fishing. They've got a rigging room and several guys who are just wizards when it comes to rigging a kayak. Check them out they can go to their Facebook page. There's lots of pictures. Also, that's Dugout Bait and Tackle is my biggest sponsor there. I fish out of a Blue Sky Boat Works. I have the Pro, so I got a motor on it. And it is an amazing kayak, fishing kayak. I thank God that the tournament directors view it as a kayak, so they allow it into tournaments. Once I stepped onto that thing, it just changed the whole way I fished. And I'm getting a little old, so the high seat and being able to get up, move around is a big plus for me. I do have a NAR, and I love that boat, but I tend to fish out of my Blue Sky more because I have all my electronics on it right now. So, but yeah, that's Dugout Bait and Tackle's my bread and butter on when it comes to outfit and what I'm using and picking up fishing supplies.
And for those of you at home that are listening, if you are in the area of the Dugout, July 8th, we have got a fun tour coming to you at the Dugout. It'll be starting at high noon on July 8th. So if you're in the area, stop by the Dugout and see maybe Jameson Redding, and a few others will be in store there for that summer fling at the Dugout Bait and Tackle.
For me, local Jackson dealer I work with a lot is Delaware Paddle Sports. They can get you squared away on pretty much anything you would desire as far as rigging goes and any type of boat Jackson offers. So great company, small shop, good people there, tax free, which is huge in my opinion. When you start, putting money into these boats, that tax adds up quick. So GPS is the spot for that, in my opinion. As far as sponsors go, obviously Jackson Kayak and Orion Coolers. Can't do what I do without them. iRod, huge supporter of mine. Actually, Jim is one of the reasons I'm with iRod, funny enough. But you already know that. Aside from them, Dakota Lithium, P-Line, Malone Auto Racks, and Yakima and Benning Branches are all, people and companies that support me and what I do, and I try to return the favor as much as humanly possible. Anybody wants to link up with me, find me on Instagram at Tightline Sharp Minds or Facebook Joshua Evans Fishing. That's about it.
How about you, Dale?
So great Oklahoma Kayak. Got some team shirts going in. 2 locations, Tulsa and Oklahoma City. Dave Lindo, Melissa, great people. If you go in there and you actually get to talk with them, amazing. They're the ones that helped me get started with kayaking and Jackson as well. So Oklahoma Kayak, to me, there's really no better place, even though I've been to Dugout, and that's an amazing location as well. But can't say enough about Oklahoma Kayak and what they've done to support me just in the early stages of getting started.
Mm-hmm. Good deal.
Hey, Chat.
Yep.
Can I just want to do one more thing real quick. I wanted to mention our local JK trail. As Rudy Yarworth, he's also on the JK team. He's running 2 different trails out here in Maryland, the Potomac series and the Conowingo series. Great grassroots series. I haven't been able to fish any of them yet because of the surgery and the new job and everything, but Rudy runs a tight little ship there, and it's on a couple of really great bodies of water out here. So check them out. And if you're looking at that next level competition, but still that regional local field, Mid-Atlantic Kayak Bass Fishing Series, we got an event July 15th.
All right. And for all you guys at home that are interested in the JK Trail, I am dropping you a link. Paste. Send it in the comment section. So if anybody wants to check out the JK Trail, it's in there for you guys to go check out. That's the entire tournament list of what's going on here this summer. I know, man, this weekend there's actually, looking at June, there's several. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tournaments this weekend on the JK Trail out there across the land. So we're excited about that and what it's brought to the table. So, but with that, we'd like to thank obviously Jackson Kayak, Orion Coolers for all their help in making this podcast a thing, and obviously our team out here. Without you 3, this podcast is not possible. So we thank you guys and everybody that's been on it. If you're looking for an Orion Cooler and you want to save 5%, please go to jacksonkayak.com, find your Orion Cooler. Look at all of our we've got like limited edition coolers. We're almost out of the yellow ribbon cooler that goes towards cancer research. So check those out. Then we've got the new one, tie-dye. That's for autism. And then we've got a few more new ones that are coming. A few new ones that will be out here later this year. They're all 55s. But if you want to save 5%, enter Orion Rocks at checkout, jacksonkayak.com, and you will save 5% on your Orion Cooler. And remember, those accessories ship for free when you buy your Orion Cooler. So do that. And then Z-Pro Lithium, thank them for their support of the Orion Podcast and the Orion Podcast Network. They've been great for us this year, keeping us powered out on the water. Bassco Fishing, get you some swag, basscofishing.com. And, of course, without a doubt, Cast King, they have been phenomenal for us this year, getting us well-equipped with some new gear and getting to know those guys, and check them out at Cast King With that, thanks for watching. We will be back in 2 weeks with a new episode of Doc Talk. So that will be the 28th. We will be back. New panel, new conversations, in the same good time. Joey ain't here, so I can't say it, but he said it last night. We'll be seeing you.
Sideline Star Mines. Let's go.
Thanks for watching, guys.
Peace.